Chapter 901. Her really behaved like a man. Mo Ding knew that he could not win against him in a fight. He got up and ran outside. Mo Jinyan was about to go after him, but Mu Firen held him back from behind. That's enough. He will not dare to do anything to Union. He's all bark and no bite. Mu Firen knew him well. Perhaps she did not know him at the very beginning, so she was deceived by him. However, after she actually saw him for who he was later, she felt that she had truly been brainwashed when she looked back on it. That was why she had felt that this man was charismatic. In actual fact, he was simply incapable and a cowardly man. While he was quite good looking and his family background was alright, he was indeed not as good as she had imagined. He was just an ordinary man. She had adorned him in gold because of love. However, in reality, he did not deserve it at all. Mo Jinyan did not go after him again when Mu Firen held him back. He turned to look at Mu Firen. He didn't do anything to you, right? Mu Firen shook her head. No. Only then did Mo Jinyan stop moving. He glanced at the side and found a place to sit down first. Mu Firen still had not realized that there was something wrong with his leg. Mo Jinyan looked up. Since the two of you have no more lingering feelings, why are you still not divorced? Mu Firen said, I wanted to get a divorce, but he kept disagreeing. Disagreeing? Can he even disagree to a divorce? Mo Jinyan asked. Mu Firen sighed and looked outside. Worry was very evident on her pretty face. I know that there's a possibility of divorce if we go to court. But even though his family isn't a very wealthy family, they have some connections in the courts. If they make things difficult, it won't be easy for me to get a divorce. Furthermore, I'm a public figure. Even though I'm semi-retired and haven't had any works for a long time, there are still many outsiders who know me. I don't really mind it, but I'm afraid that Mo Ding will blow the matter up and negatively affect Union. Union has no father and she's not Mo Ding's biological daughter, so he definitely won't bother with her. But everyone out there thinks that Union is his child. If news gets out that Union isn't his flesh and blood, I don't know what everyone will say about Union. I don't want Union to get hurt. Union had no father. No, Union had a father. Mo Jinyan wanted to get up and say something. However, the moment he moved, he could not tolerate the sudden pain in his thigh. He held his thigh and his knee immediately swung downward. Mu Firen realized that something was wrong and hastily asked, "What's wrong?" At this moment, Gu Jingze's drawling voice could be heard from the doorway. A hole was pierced through your leg, so don't push yourself anymore. Gu Jingze's face was completely composed when he walked in calmly, looked at Mo Jinyan, and spoke. Mo Jinyan looked up and glanced at Gu Jingze. He held his leg, unmoving. Mu Firen quickly went over to help him. What's going on? What does he mean when he says that a hole was pierced through your leg? Before Mo Jinyan could respond, Gu Jingze had already said, he got shot in the thigh and in the shoulder. He hasn't fully recovered yet. Mu Firen looked at him in surprise. Mo Jinyan looked up and glared at Gu Jingze. Gu Jingze said, Miss Mu, since the matter has been resolved, I will take my leave first. If anything crops up, remember to get someone to inform me. As for him, Gu Jingze looked at Mo Jinyan. I'll leave someone here to watch over you. Remember to bring my henchman with you when you return to the hospital. Gu Jingze did not say anything further and turned to leave. Mo Jinyan looked in the direction in which he left and smiled to himself. Ultimately, Gu Jingze was still willing to trust him. However, the fright on Mu Firen's face had yet to dissipate. She looked at Mo Jinyan in shock. How did you get shot? Mo Jinyan's hand was on his thigh and he had an indifferent smile on his face. It's all right, I'm fine now. Mu Firen knew that they did not belong in the same world. She could not imagine what he had been through. For instance, she had acted out a scene in a drama series where she had gotten shot. However, she had always thought that she would never encounter such a thing for real. But it seemed to be such a common occurrence to him. Mu Firen hastily asked, then, what should I do now? Can I look at your wound? Mo Jinyan looked at her and nodded silently. Mu Firen sat him upright. Then, she crouched down, pushed his pants aside, and looked at his wound. It was indeed a sizable wound that was already healing. The bandage around it had medicine that was turning slightly yellow. Mu Firen said, "It looks like it's time to change your bandages. Let me help you." "There's no need to go through that trouble," Mo Jinyan said. Mu Firen said, "It's not troublesome. You still came to help me despite being injured. I really feel very apologetic. I'll help you change your bandages. Hold on a minute, I'll ask them for the medical kit." Mu Firen genuinely felt grateful, so she wanted to put effort into helping him do something. Mu Firen went out and got the medical kit. She came back to where he was and helped him peel away the bandages. The sight of the wound really made her gasp in surprise. It was her very first time seeing a bullet wound. Of course, much of its original appearance had changed because of surgery, but it was still a ghastly sight. She did not know how exactly Mo Jinyan had been shot, neither did she know what he had been through. She could do nothing but look at him. Her heart really felt strange. "Let me know if it hurts," she hastily said when she saw the frightening wound. However, Mo Jinyan merely watched her apply the medicine and did not say a single word. He did not even whine at all. It was as if the wound was not on his thigh. Mu Firen could not help but find him strange. He was so tough and made no sound at all. When she looked up, her eyes met his eyes which were staring straight at her. Her face instinctively turned slightly red. She quickly bowed her head down and momentarily felt that his gaze was so overwhelming that she could not look straight at him. What exactly was he doing? She quickly finished up and slightly regretted going so close to him. "I'm done," she said. I can see that," Mo Jinyan said. Mu Firen said, "You're amazing. Don't you feel pain? You didn't react to the medicine at all." Mo Jinyan stood up calmly and tested out his injured leg. "This injury is nothing. A man should not make any noise," he said as if he was referring to someone. Mu Firen instinctively thought of Mo Ding. After being kicked, he wailed as he lay on the ground. Compared to Mo Ding, Mo Jinyan seemed even more manly. Furthermore, he was a very masculine man. Mu Firen looked at him and felt confused for a moment. How could there be a man like this on Earth? His existence seemed so fantastical as if they were in a movie scene, but he was right in front of her and was a man in real life. Mu Firen had never dared to think that they would get involved any further. She was a woman who had a child and was married. She was no longer that rebellious young girl who had unrealistic thoughts. It was a very pleasant fantasy, but the reality was so cruel. Chapter 902. He came to the film set. When Mo Jinyan left, he looked at her. "Think of a way to divorce him." Mu Firen smiled and nodded. I'll think up a way very soon. It's better to just get the pain over with rather than prolonging the agony. I'll help you think of a solution if he doesn't agree," he said. Mu Firen did not really want to trouble Mo Jinyan too much. As she looked at him, she felt grateful. For a moment, she thought that even though he was a very violent person, he seemed like a very good person in front of her. Lin Che continued filming on set. Today, Nan Gongyu still did not seem to be in a good mood. He maintained a poker face when he looked at her. Lin Che did not know if she had somehow offended him. However, she constantly felt that his attitude was somewhat different from when they had been filming. Of course, perhaps she was overthinking it. It was possible that the director was not in a good mood because of something else. That night, Lin Che walked towards her hotel room once filming wrapped up. She saw Nan Gongyu walking in the same direction after filming ended as well. Lin Che greeted Nan Gongyu, "Director, are you going back to the hotel?" Nan Gongyu's expression was normal when he saw her. He merely looked at her indifferently. He recalled that there were some issues with the script and said to her, "Go back and practice the part that we changed yesterday. We'll try to film it first thing tomorrow." "Oh, okay, I'll practice when I go back," Lin Che promised. Nan Gongyu looked at Lin Che and could not bring himself to be fierce. She was not like other celebrities who liked to throw tantrums for no reason. She had a very good temper and was also very professional. He could tell at least that much. He was also thinking that it was unlikely for him to misjudge someone. He felt that Lin Che was probably not that kind of worldly woman. As he looked at Lin Che, he paused and was just about to speak when he saw a row of people standing in front of the door to Lin Che's hotel room. The person leading them was Gu Jingze. A few tall and well-built bodyguards who looked extremely professional trailed behind him. Nan Gongyu immediately swallowed his words. He narrowed his eyes and looked over at them. Lin Che, there's something else I must warn you about. Don't let your visitors stay too long. You'll affect tomorrow's filming if you don't get a good sleep. Lin Che froze. Thereafter, she looked up to see Gu Jingze standing over there. She immediately understood that Nan Gongyu was talking about Gu Jingze. She said, Director, That's enough. Go ahead. Nan Gongyu stuck one hand into his pocket. Without casting another glance at Lin Che, he walked past her directly. Lin Che could only let out a breath. Her chest felt slightly heavy as she had not said what she wanted to. But Gu Jingze was actually here. She looked up, smiled, and looked at Gu Jingze. Then, she quickly ran towards him. This entire level of the hotel had essentially been booked by the production crew. Lin Che stayed in a suite. However, it was not as luxurious as the one she had stayed in when she had been filming Yin Shangshu's drama. As Nan Gongyu did not really like such luxury, the production crew had kept food and accommodation very simple. It did not bother Lin Che. They were just filming. It was fine as long as she could stay in the hotel and rest well. There were people in the hotel who noticed Gu Jingze and looked at him in unison. This man had previously gone to the set with Lin Che. He was here to see Lin Che again. Gu Jingze seemed not to notice the speculating gazes of the people around them. He looked at Lin Che. Has filming ended? Lin Che asked, Why are you here? You're even waiting for me at the door. You should have told me in advance. It's nothing though, Gu Jingze said. Lin Che quickly looked at the people around them. Then, she took out her card key and went in. It would not matter if someone else was standing here. But for someone like Gu Jingze who was so conspicuous wherever he went and even brought people with him, standing here was akin to being an animal in the zoo for people to view. Every passerby would definitely come to take a look. Lin Che quickly pushed Gu Jingze in. His subordinates tactfully left. Lin Che said, You must tell me next time. I don't want everyone to start talking tomorrow about how you stood at the door waiting for me. Gu Jingze asked, Why? Is there anything shameful about me waiting for you? Seeing that Gu Jingze's eyes were already glaring at her warningly, Lin Che hastily said, No. You've misunderstood me. Knowing that this man liked being petty over nothing, Lin Che held his arm placatingly. She said, You're too good looking and you stand out too much. I don't want everyone else to look at you. I want to keep you to myself. Can't I? Gu Jingze proceeded to glare at her. He thought to himself that it was only when it came to this woman that he still liked to listen to her flattery even though it was so obviously fake. Lin Che smiled sheepishly, looked at him, and asked, Why did you suddenly come to the set? It's nothing. I came out to run some errands and conveniently came here to take a look. He looked at her, raised an eyebrow and asked, Something just happened to Mu Firen. Do you know about it? I don't know. She had been too busy recently and had not been in frequent contact with Mu Firen. Their relationship was also not one that required them to contact each other every day for them to remain close. Even if they had not contacted each other for a very long time, Lin Che still felt that Mu Firen was her good friend. This fact would not change. A natural relationship like that was much more relaxed than making a conscious effort to maintain a relationship. And in each person's lifetime, they only had a few such friends. It was possible that many people did not even have one. She was lucky to have so many friends like this. What happened to Firen? Lin Che asked frantically. Gu Jingze said, Nothing. It has already been resolved. Black Hawk went over to deal with it. Mu Firen just had a problem with that man. Lin Che said, Did Mo Ding cause her trouble again? Although it was just a small problem, you should persuade this friend of yours to quickly solve this problem. Lin Che knew this. She had also thought of several methods with Mu Firen before. However, there was no way around it. Both of them had the same concern. They were very worried that it would affect the children if the matter blew up. In the end, they did not come to a conclusion either and left the matter as it was. Just then, Lin Che realized another problem. She looked at Gu Jingze. Are you saying that you released Black Hawk? Gu Jingze leaned against the side and massaged his temple tiredly. My subordinates went there with him. Oh, so you agreed to let him go there. You have already given him a lot of grace. In actual fact, you don't want things between you and Black Hawk to become so difficult, right? Lin Che said as she looked at him after approaching him and leaning against him. Gu Jingze looked straight ahead, many thoughts and emotions running through his mind and heart. If what he says is true and he's a child of the Gu family as well, I can't keep holding him prisoner. I won't be able to imprison him either. If he wants to run away, sooner or later, he will have a chance to run away. But it doesn't seem like he wants to run away now. So it also confirms the fact that everything he said is true. Lin Che knew that he wanted to resolve this matter, but this matter could not be resolved easily as if it concerned someone else or was a business matter. This matter was very complex and involved blood relations, family relations, and friendships. She rested her head on Gu Jingze's shoulder. Don't think about it if you can't find a solution. Think about how to resolve it simply. Do what you want to do. In any case, no matter what you choose in the end, the matter will be resolved. Right. Chapter 903. He could only get comforted at her place. Gu Jingze felt that being next to her really made him less easily awkward than he was before. The external world was spreading rumors that he was harsh towards others. However, he treated others harshly because he easily went down a dead end. He had to complete everything he thought of with no delay. But Lin Che was such an open and easygoing person. Regardless of what happened, she always went with the flow. If it was someone else, he would have probably gone mad a long time. But because it was Lin Che, so he thought his personality also became more grounded and calm like her. He liked everything to run efficiently, but now, he felt that even if it did not go as planned, it was fine. If he could not manage it, then he would go with the flow. Like what Lin Che said, there will eventually be a solution, so, in the end, he would have his own way of resolving it. Gu Jingze thought he had been negatively influenced by her. However, he was strangely genuinely a willing victim. Gu Jingze leaned there, looked at Lin Che, and scanned through the room. Lin Che said, "It is quite bad here. But since I am filming, it is okay if it is harder." Gu Jingze's hands reached into her clothes. "That's fine." Lin Che quickly said, "Stop playing around. What are you going to do here? This is not good. You should go back." "How is it not good? It is so old here and so worn down. Of course, it is not good." "That's all right. With you here, anywhere is good." He leaned down, because he discreetly felt somehow stressed, so he wanted to release his stress on her as if he could find comfort in her body. Lin Che felt like she was mesmerized by his gentle actions as if he was purposely tempting her. His actions were slow and light like a feather's touch like the sun's days, making her feel so warm and comfortable she could not help but open her heart. However, she should have known that no matter how gentle the start was, it could not stop the intensity at the back. He could not control himself at the end, making her on the verge of collapsing before letting her go. At night, Gu Jingze secretly left through the back door. Lin Che thought, why did Gu Jingze have to come and even discreetly leave at the end? As the CEO, how Mr. Gu ran away secretly made Lin Che uncontrollably feel very funny, so she almost laughed out loud. However, when she woke up in the morning to film for the early scenes, Nangongyu still looked very cold when she met him immediately after walking out. She looked at her, greeted him, and left without saying anything. Lin Che felt that it was strange, so she caught up with Nangongyu. "Director, please wait for me," she walked over and said. Nangongyu stopped. "Something is up." Lin Che took a deep breath and pursed her lips while earnestly looking at him. "Director, do you hold something against me? Did I do something wrong? If I did something wrong, you can tell me. You don't have to tolerate it. Since I signed for your movie, if I have done something wrong during filming, I can change if it is something reasonable." Nangongyu looked at her and silently scanned around her body. He then coolly said, "No, you have misunderstood." However, his words were completely different from his expression. Lin Che said, "Director, I don't like to beat around the bush or to second-guess your thoughts. If there is anything, just say it." Nangongyu looked at her, his eyes staring at her face. He looked like he could not bear it anymore. Fine, since you don't like to beat around the bush, I will tell you. I don't have anything against you. Although you brought a man back to stay the night, which was against the rules of the crew, I cannot hold anything against you because the man that you brought back seemed like a very powerful man who I cannot afford to offend. Lin Che choked. But upon seeing how Nangong coolly walked past her upon finishing speaking with the prideful aura tinged with some indignation, Lin Che felt suffocated. He was not the kind of director that would kiss her ass and become respectful towards her if he thought that she had a powerful person backing her. He looked down at this common occurrence in the entertainment industry. Lin Che knew she had been misunderstood to be bought by a sugar daddy. She felt a little angry that he would just randomly make assumptions. When Robey came and saw Lin Che's angry face, she quickly came over and asked, "What's wrong? Why do you look so angry?" Lin Che said, "This Nangong had quite a temper." Robey froze then laughed. "Did he offend you? He is famous for being an angry youth in the industry. If not, why did he not become an actor but a director? Just take him as an idiot who is devoted to making pure films. Ah, how can there be so many pure things?" After hearing Robey say that, Lin Che did not feel so angry anymore. She said, "It is okay to have aspirations. However, he got angry at me for no reason at all and made many assumptions about me, seriously. Alright, no matter how many assumptions he made, he still needs to use you because this movie of his cannot be acted out to this effect by anyone else. You act really well, so use your competency to hit back on him. Don't care about him." Lin Che heard and felt encouraged once again. She sniffed and said, "You are right. I should think this way. I need to show him my capabilities. I am not just a pretty face, I am true talent. If you look down on me, then you are blind." From that day onwards, Lin Che also did not have a good attitude towards him. She acted her part and if there was anything wrong, she would clarify with him logically. Sparks were flying at the scene sometimes, which shocked the crew. There were really artists that dared to fight with the director. Especially not just any other director, but Nangong who had a lot of fans. He was a representative of angry youths and his fans were also very hardcore. They were known as being very harsh on the web. Few people won when they fought him, so many people did not dare to offend him. Furthermore, his movies were also very good, so he was always the one calling the shots at the scene. This time, Lin Che became the first actress to call him out. The most important thing was that even if Nangong wanted to logically win the fight, Lin Che sometimes made a sound point. Some feelings, emotions, and expressions of the script and lightning were rightly pointed out by Lin Che. She did not film many movies, but she did film many dramas. Every drama filming lasted for many months, so she was very familiar with the processes and filming techniques. Comparatively, although Nangong was also an actor, he had not been an actor or director for many years. He was not even a formally trained director but was self-taught, so he did know the way to many things. Although Nangong felt indignant, he had to admit he learned a lot from Lin Che. Therefore, even if they fought, Nangong continued to film with her the next day. Both of them were such perfectionists that the effect of the movie was also surprisingly good. Everyone could not help but gossip that with the current progress of the fighting, they might just really film a classic. Chapter 904. What you think of me is a huge misunderstanding. After filming ended for the day, Lin Che continued to chase after Nangong. Nangong's entire face was filled with annoyance when he looked at Lin Che now. However, Lin Che did not care. She walked directly towards him and said, "You still haven't talked to me about tomorrow's scenes. Aren't you going to talk to me about it?" Nangong responded, "Don't you have your own way of doing things? Do you still need me to tell you what to do? Hey, director, we conduct ourselves for the sake of art." Nangong looked at her. "Do you have something against me?" Lin Che suddenly felt that he seemed to be asking her what she had asked him that day. She tilted her head, smiled, and said, "Why would I have something against you? I just want to be responsible for the movie I'm acting in." Nangong said, "Tell me straight if you have anything against me." However, Lin Che just looked at him. "Do you think the questions I asked you are professional?" "Yes." Nangong had no choice but to concede. "Then, tell me, do you think what I said was right?" "I guess so." Nan Gongyu was also compelled to say so when faced with her overbearing behavior. Lin Che said, because unlike you who isn't professional enough towards other professionals and are critical towards your actors, I still want to treat you professionally even if I feel that you're not being professional enough in this aspect. Thus, I'm showing you that I'm professional now. Was she saying that he was not being professional enough in having opinions on her personal life? Nan Gongyu looked at her. Could it be that you think you're being professional by bringing your messy personal life to the film set? Lin Che looked at him. Hey, what do you mean? My messy personal life, how is it messy? Could it be that the person I saw that day wasn't here for you? A husband coming on set to visit his wife, when did that become a messy personal life? Lin Che looked at him and asked. Nan Gongyu paused. His throat was immediately stuck and he did not know what to say. A husband visiting his wife on set. Do you call that kind of relationship a husband and wife relationship? Nan Gongyu wanted to say. He really could not tell that Lin Che was usually this kind of woman. She was even being so self-righteous. Lin Che immediately said, hey, get this straight. We're a married couple. Don't tell me you don't call a married couple husband and wife but something else instead. Lin Che said, we were a lawfully wedded couple, to begin with. Usually, production crews allow actors to take time off when their spouses are here to visit. I didn't ask you for time off and met my husband whom I haven't met for a long time in the middle of the night. I can't believe you said that my personal life is messy. Do you think you're being professional by doing this? Nan Gongyu looked at her in surprise. You're married? He had never heard about this. Lin Che looked up. Why, do you still want to interfere with my marriage? Of course, that was impossible. He was just being curious. That man was actually her husband. In that case, then he had indeed misunderstood. For a moment, Nan Gongyu felt a little awkward. He stood there but avoided her gaze. Lin Che straightened her back. So, don't you think you should apologize to me? Furthermore, you must admit that I'm professional and responsible. Nan Gongyu did not speak. Under Lin Che's pressuring gaze, he instinctively moved backward. Say it, quick, say it, Lin Che continued. If she had bluntly said this a few days ago, he would still have been able to retort that whether or not she was professional remained to be seen. However, she had already proved her professionalism with her performance over the past few days. Now, she had also told him that he had misunderstood her. She had blocked off all his possible routes of escape. Left with no choice and being pressured by her, Nan Gongyu could only say, fine, fine, fine. I'll apologize. I'm sorry I misunderstood you. Only then did Lin Che smile in satisfaction. She looked at him and nodded proudly. She said, all right, I'll accept your apology. I hope that we can treat each other fairly in the future so we can film the movie even better, right? What else could Nan Gongyu say? He could only glance at Lin Che in helplessness. This woman really left him with no choice. She simply had to get her way. It was too much. However, she had such good resources to back her up and had sufficient capability as well. In actual fact, she was bound to become famous sooner or later. He said, that's enough. Come on, let's discuss tomorrow's scenes. In reality, Nan Gongyu was not one to bear grudges either. Since they had clarified the misunderstanding between the two of them, as she had said, filming a good movie was the common goal they both wanted to achieve. From the next day onwards, it was obvious that their relationship improved greatly even though they continued arguing about the movie. Everyone felt much more relaxed as well. They felt that sure enough, it felt much better when the two of them cooperated like this as opposed to going against each other. During the gaps in filming, Lin Che still had to participate in the pre-recording of the reality show. She was really awfully busy. The filming schedule for the reality show had already been fixed but had yet to start. Making use of this time, Lin Che asked the production crew for time off so that she could go home to celebrate Nianyan's birthday. Nianyan's birthday arrived in no time. Of course, Lin Che could not miss her son's birthday. After this birthday, he would turn 4. Lin Che felt that time truly passed quickly. Her son was already a young child and was no longer the infant he had previously been. On the day of his birthday, Ji Yushinian received many presents at the kindergarten. Meanwhile, Lin Che was at home preparing his cake. After discussing with the maids at home, she started making the cake on her own. Of course, her cooking skills were still mediocre. Thus, she basically took a step back and left it to the maids. She was worried that otherwise, Gu Jingze may not eat the cake at all. Just then, a maid shouted from outside, "Madam, little young master is back." Lin Che quickly wiped her hands and walked out. When she saw the people trailing behind Nianian carrying bags of different sizes, she could tell with one glance that those were gifts and she instinctively froze. "Are all of these gifts? Who gave them to you?" In a very stylish manner, Gu Jingze gestured for them to put the gifts down. Then, he answered, "The kids at the kindergarten gave them to me." Wow, Lin Che smiled, walked towards him, and patted his head. "Our Nianian is so popular in kindergarten. Tell your mother, did more boys give you presents or did more girls give you presents?" Behind him, the maids who had followed him smiled and said, "Madam, just by looking at this packaging, you can tell that more girls gave him presents. Little young master is already a chick magnet at such a young age." Lin Che was even more amused after hearing this. However, Gu Jingze had an expression of complete reluctance on his face. He said, "How lame." Lin Che said, "Dear me. Nianian, is there any child that you find very pretty?" Gu Jingze said, "No." It was not too early for Lin Che to worry. She really felt that Gu Jingze might not be able to find a wife in the future given his arrogant manner. Of course, it would be easy to find a woman. There was no way that women would not like a child of the Gu family. This much was obvious from looking at his father. However, the important thing was finding a wife who suited him perfectly. As his mother, she was really not confident in his emotional quotient at all. She felt that he would scare away most girls. Chapter 905, The Little Xinian's Birthday. Once Gu Jingze was home as well, Lin Che took out the huge cake. Gu Jingze walked in and smiled as he looked at Gu Jingze and Lin Che. Lin Che had forced Gu Jingze to wear a suit of red clothing. Gu Jingze really looked like he was dressed for his birthday, but he was not that happy. Lin Che placed the cake on the table and said to Gu Jingze, "I made this for Nianian." "Nianian, what do you think?" Gu Jingze asked, "Mother, are you sure you made this?" "What do you mean?" Lin Che's expression turned stony. She looked at Gu Jingze in warning. "If you didn't make it, I think we can still give it a taste." "Get lost, you little brat. I put effort into making this. You have to eat it no matter what." "Mother, at the very least, it's my birthday. You can't kill your biological son today, right?" "How is it bad? Look at how pretty it is." Gu Jingze looked on from the side and recalled that he had missed many of Gu Jingze's birthdays. This was actually Gu Jingze's first time spending Nianian's birthday with him. He walked in. "Nianian." Gu Jingze turned around. "Father, it's my birthday today but mother is still bullying me like this." Lin Che put her hands on her hips. "What do you mean, I'm bullying you? I'm doing all this in the name of love. How can you be so unappreciative?" Gu Jingze looked at the two of them and smiled. "That's enough. Lin Che, it's his birthday. We have to give in to him today." He approached her and put his arm around her. "We'll punish him tomorrow instead. It will be the same if you punish him after midnight today." Gu Jingze looked at the two of them in disbelief, dark lines etched onto his face. Lin Che laughed upon hearing this. She tugged at Gu Jingze and said, "Sure. You're right, I'll give him face since it's his birthday. It's never too late for one to get revenge. I'll keep this in mind today. After 12 midnight, I'll punish him properly." Gu Jingze pursed his lips. As expected, there was no question that they were ganging up against him. "Now, mother isn't like she was in the past," he said. "What's different?" Lin Che asked in confusion. Gu Jingze said, "Now, mother has someone to back her up." His father was so evil. With him around, it would probably be very difficult for him to bully his mother again. For a moment, he felt that it was truly a pity. However, he was still no match for his father, for the time being, so he could only admit defeat at the moment. Gu Jingze had not forgotten that it was his birthday today. He looked down and asked Gu Jingze, "Today is your birthday. First, Tell me, do you have anything you want? Gu Xinian asked, Can I go shooting? Lin Che could not have expected Gu Xinian to think of this all of a sudden. Gu Jingze raised his eyebrows. Shooting? You want to go shooting? Gu Xinian could not conceal the excitement in his eyes. He looked at Gu Xinian. I want to go shooting. Gu Jingze sneaked a probing glance at Lin Che beside him. Lin Che immediately came over to stop him. Shooting? I'll buy you 10 toy guns. Go ahead and shoot. Gu Xinian said in disbelief, Mother, don't make me play with toys for 3-year-olds, alright? It was true. It was his birthday now and he was no longer a 3-year-old kid. He was a 4-year-old kid. Lin Che said, don't play with such dangerous things. Gu Xinian said, I just want to try it out. I'm not going to shoot anyone with it. Father, this is my only birthday wish. Lin Che still wanted to speak but Gu Jingze stopped her. Gu Jingze looked at Lin Che and shook his head faintly. Then, he said, it would be good for him to go and check it out too. There will be a professional coach to watch over him. We'll go with him as well. We'll just let him take a look. Nothing will go wrong. But he must learn how to defend himself too. Even if he doesn't know the complicated stuff, he should at least know the simplest techniques like how to pull the trigger. Gu Jingze shook Lin Che's hand. Lin Che's heart sank. She knew that Gu Xinian was a child of the Gu family. He was born with a gold spoon in his mouth and had a family background that was worthy of envy. At the same time, he also had to bear a burden that others could not imagine. He was in very grave danger, just like Gu Jingze was. He had to know a bit of self-defense. Even though Lin Che constantly felt that it was really inconceivable for a 4-year-old child to have anything to do with guns and felt strange about it, this was Gu Xinian's reality. From the moment he was born, his life was destined to be different from that of ordinary people. She could not impose her own experience of childhood on Gu Xinian. However, Gu Jingze was much more experienced in this aspect. So since Gu Jingze had already spoken, Lin Che had no choice but to agree as well. Lin Che looked at Gu Xinian and nodded reluctantly. Only then did Gu Xinian shout, Hooray! Gu Jingze said, don't get happy so soon. You may not even be able to find the trigger when you get to that point. Gu Xinian said, I've watched videos on how to use a gun. After watching many videos, he had wanted to try it out personally for a long time. Gu Jingze took the two of them out. Lin Che sat there and asked, where are we going to shoot? We have a shooting club. Don't worry, it's very safe there. Many shooting enthusiasts can go there to shoot too. Okay, safety came first. Lin Che did not wish for anything else. She only wanted Gu Xinian to just give it a try. It would be best if he tried it out, realized that he could not even hold a gun, and decided never to touch a gun again in the future. How could he casually touch such a dangerous thing? In no time, the three of them arrived at the shooting club. The family of three alighted from the car. Lin Che looked up and discovered that, sure enough, there were people here. Everyone liked novel and odd hobbies nowadays. Activities like fishing, shooting, and horse riding had become common hobbies for wealthy people, so there were many people here too. The family of three entered the venue. The excitement was plain on Gu Xinian's face and he looked like he could not wait to try it out. As they looked at the rose weapons displayed, the smell of testosterone filled the air. However, the people here were mostly young. A few men and women were here to join in the fun. From time to time, people who seemed very impressive took a turn and shocked the people around them with their skills. When the club coach saw that Gu Jingze was here, he immediately went up to him. Are you here to shoot? But our humble shop definitely doesn't have a coach to match up to you. No coach will be a match for your shooting skills. Gu Jingze looked at Gu Xinian and said, no. I'm here today to let my child take a look. The shop owner looked at the child in surprise. He was still so small in size. This child he could not even reach the shooting platform. Why was he here to shoot? But he was the Gu family's young master. Of course, the way he played was also different from the way ordinary children did. Children of his age in ordinary families only knew to watch cartoons and play games. However, at such a young age, a child of the Gu family was brought to a shooting club. Chapter 906. This child is truly a prodigy. The shooting range was made up of multiple lanes. Between two lanes, there was a piece of protective glass. Everyone could see each other but could not attack. This allowed people to enjoy watching others shoot and at the same time guaranteeing their safety. Gu Xinian looked in excitement at the gun that the coach brought over. Then, he looked at Gu Jingze. Father. Gu Jingze said, "All right, coach. Thank you, I'll teach him." Of course, the coach did not dare to say otherwise. He quickly smiled and nodded. Then, he put the gun down and watched quietly from the side. Gu Jingze nimbly assembled the pistol while explaining to Gu Xinian, "Start learning from something small like this. This small pistol is easy to aim. One thing though, the recoil is very strong. You must be careful, the recoil will affect the accuracy of your shooting. You might think that you aimed correctly, but in actual fact, the recoil will cause your aim to drift unpredictably when you shoot. Understand? I'll show you once. Watch clearly." At this moment, Gu Xinian really looked very obedient and sensible. Lin Che was wearing protective glasses while watching from behind. She looked at the father and son pair in disbelief. Just like that, they had already forgotten that she was beside them and were going to ignore her. However, as she looked at the two of them in their shooting attire, Gu Xinian looked the part despite his small stature. It was even more so for Gu Jingze. It was rare for him to wear a uniform. He really looked clean-cut and handsome. People would be stunned upon looking at him. Lin Che did not leave. She was delighted just standing here and looking at the adult and the child. Around them, the girls who had accompanied the men here had noticed Gu Jingze a long time ago. They saw that he looked dashing in the protective eyewear. It covered half of his face and accentuated the defined contours of his face. As for his gaze, it seemed even colder behind the faintly brown lenses and was so calm that it made people gasp in awe. He looked way too charismatic. How could they resist looking at him? The dark green uniform made him look very somber. He held the gun up with one hand and extended his arm. He aimed at the target in front of him without blinking his eyes at all. His gaze was so sharp that his eyes seemed like those of a cheetah. He narrowed his eyes and they flashed slightly when he took a clean shot. Bang, bang, every shot he took hit the target. Beside him, the coach applauded him. "You're really as amazing as you have always been." The corners of his lips turned up slightly. He turned to look at Lin Che. When he saw her smitten smile, he smiled even wider. Then, he bowed his head and said to Gu Xinian, "You're still young and you don't have much strength either. You definitely can't withstand the recoil. Hold the handle of the gun with both hands, like this." He switched hands and held the gun with both his hands. He lifted the gun to his chest level and took a shot, his movements so fluid that people gasped in admiration. After hitting the target a couple more times, Gu Jingze placed the gun down on the small table beside him. He then changed the magazine of the gun in a practiced manner. Gu Xinian was very amazed as well. Although it did not show on his face, the excitement in his eyes could no longer be concealed. Gu Jingze said, "Give it a try." Gu Xinian said, "Okay." The coach smiled behind them, thinking that the child would definitely not be able to do it after such a simple demonstration. In any case, however, he could not have brought such a small child here to teach him how to shoot. He must have brought him here just to have some fun. Gu Xinian looked at the target in front of him before looking down at the gun. He picked it up and bowed his head to examine it first. The coach quickly watched him carefully from the side to prevent him from accidentally misfiring the gun. He was standing at the side precisely to avoid such incidents. However, Gu Xinian merely looked at the gun with his head down. He did not make any other move. His heart was in his throat, but nothing happened in the end. Gu Xinian merely held the gun up calmly. The people outside could not help but look at him. They looked at this small child holding a gun as if they were mocking him. They felt that it was totally a waste of money, a waste of the venue, and a waste of bullets for such a young child to try shooting. However, Gu Xinian seemed not to notice anyone at all. He only had eyes for the target in front of him. He aimed the gun outside and held it tightly with both hands. He heard Gu Jingze's guidance from beside him. Don't hold it so tight. Remember what I told you. Alright, father, Gu Jingze responded. Thereafter, mimicking Gu Jingze's posture, he finally pulled the trigger with his hands. A bang reverberated. He looked the part. His movements were the same as his father's and he mimicked them perfectly. His ability to emulate was really very strong. However, it was a pity that the bullet strayed a little. The screen in front indicated that the bullet had not hit the target. Even so, the sight had already stunned everyone. They could not believe that such a small child could shoot in a manner that did not pale in comparison to these adults. Furthermore, his movements seemed to look even more professional than theirs. This child was way too intelligent. Beside him, Gu Jingze said calmly, "Get used to it. Control your strength and continue shooting." Gu Jingze took another shot after hearing this. This time, he hit the target with a bang. Although his shot was still slightly off target at the edge, it was a great improvement from his earlier attempt. Initially, they even thought that he had gotten lucky. However, Gu Jingze proceeded to shoot consecutively. Each shot was more accurate than the previous one. Even though he did not manage to hit the center of the target, it was enough to make people gasp in awe. Such a young child. Everyone's initial expressions of derision immediately turned into expressions of admiration. They could not help but look at the family of three. As all of them were in uniform, people could not tell who was who. They could only tell that none of the three looked ordinary. Each and every one of them seemed so outstanding. They would definitely command a lot of attention together. On the contrary, Gu Jingze was slightly disappointed. He looked up and said, "I didn't even hit the bullseye once." Gu Jingze said, "You'll be able to do that next time. Because you don't have enough strength, it's natural that you can't control the recoil properly." Gu Jingze said, "I guess." In the beginning, Lin Che had thought that it would be very difficult. But when she saw that Gu Jingze had learned it in such a short time, she could not help but think that shooting did not seem so difficult after all. Gu Jingze said, "You've already done very well." Lin Che said from behind, "So you must eat more so that you can have more strength. Eat more when we get home." Gu Jingze turned around with his lips pursed. Lin Che said, "Looks like shooting isn't that difficult either." Gu Jingze raised his eyebrows. "Why, do you want to give it a try too?" Lin Che asked, "Can I?" Gu Jingze gestured for her to go over. Lin Che walked towards him eagerly. Beside them, the coach smiled. He felt that their child was truly a prodigy. As for the wife, she did not look that intelligent. Gu Jingze said, "Come give it a try too. Follow what I taught Nian earlier." Lin Che said, I wasn't paying much attention just now." Gu Jingze said in disbelief, "All right. I'll explain it to you again." He repeated everything again. This time, Lin Che listened in earnest. After listening, she did not think it was difficult either. Even a mere child could hit the target. She did not believe that she would not be able to do it. Gu Jingze smiled and did not burst her bubble. He let her try it on her own. Lin Che held up the gun. At first, she held it with one hand. Gu Jingze said, "Both hands." Lin Che turned around. "Isn't that for kids?" Chapter 907. Birthdays must be spent together. Gu Jingze smiled and said, all right. Try it out first." Lin Che held the gun with one hand. She had previously gone through the movements while filming. Thus, she definitely knew what to do, even though holding a real gun was a little different from acting. Lin Che's heart even jolted in excitement. Thereafter, she fired a shot directly. The large impact made her feel as if she had been pushed backward. Thereafter, she did not know where the bullet had long gone. Behind her, the coach felt the urge to laugh. Lin Che wondered in disbelief how the recoil could be so strong. Gu Jingze said, "Now you know, right? The recoil is very strong. Give it another good shot." Lin Che pursed her lips. "Seriously, I'm a girl and I have very little strength. Of course, I can't withstand it." She gave herself that excuse and proceeded to give it another try with both hands, wanting to restore her pride. This time, she had to hold the gun tight and shoot properly. Gu Jingze looked at how she was behaving and smiled speechlessly. This time, her bullet strayed again and missed the target. Lin Che could not believe it. What the hell, is there something wrong with the gun? Behind them, Gu Jingze quietly shook his head. Lin Che was so angry that her face turned red. She refused to admit defeat and took many consecutive shots. However, none hit the target. Lin Che turned around with an upset expression. How loathsome, something must be wrong with the target. Gu Jingze shook his head. He put down his crossed arms and walked towards her. Be obedient, don't move, I'll do it. He moved closer to Lin Che from behind. His arms stretched past Lin Che's sides and wrapped around her body. He helped her hold the gun, his fingers pressing hers. By doing this, he helped her hold the barrel steady. Look, like this. Hold the gun level and don't move. Move your legs slightly further apart so that you can control the recoil better. Then, aim at the target. Remember that you don't have to aim very accurately. Just aim roughly, since this depends on your feelings and not on your eyes. She could feel his breath from behind her. The material of their uniform was smooth and created a very nice sound when rubbed together. It felt nice to the touch as well. It was as if both of them could feel it every time they came into contact. Lin Che felt warm. She felt restless, enveloped in his embrace, and was even more unaware of what she was doing. However, the people around them were really being tortured. They were incredibly smitten when they saw the way the man taught her how to shoot. There were also girls looking at them with envy, wanting their boyfriends to do the same to them as well. However, it would be even worse if they did the same thing in front of Gu Jingze when they were not as tall and stately as he was. Looking at them like this, everyone felt even more envious. They could only watch the woman learn how to shoot. Before this, they had even mocked her for being worse at shooting than a child. But now, they felt that this was the way it should be. Why did a girl have to be so strong? She had to be a little weaker so that she could be embraced like this. Gu Jingze helped her with the gun and said gently into her ear, "Come on, focus. Pull the trigger." This time, the shot was immediately fired and hit the bullseye. Lin Che was surprised for a moment. When she saw the screen indicate that she had hit the target on the bullseye, she was instantly stunned. As expected, flying was extremely easy with a deity to bring you along. Gu Jingze went for another round. This time, he became more and more skilled with each shot. Thereafter, the family planned to go back home to eat the cake, seeing as it was about time. While walking, Lin Che asked in disbelief, "Why can't I hit it?" Humph. Gu Jingze tilted his head and looked at her. He smiled and said, "You're just not familiar with it yet." Lin Che pouted. Then, why was their son able to do it? Lin Che looked at small Gu Jingze and really felt that she was not even as good as her son. However, it seemed that Nianian was quite impressive. He learned things so quickly. Lin Che still felt very happy when she thought of the fact that essentially, she had given birth to such a prodigy. On their way home, Gu Jingze was a little tired due to his excitement and fell asleep mid-journey. He was a child after all. No matter how mature he was physically a child and needed much more sleep than an adult. In one swift motion, Gu Jingze lifted the child in his arms. He walked on the streets with Lin Che while carrying him. Lin Che only started talking when she saw that Gu Jingze had fallen asleep. This was to avoid Gu Jingze from getting arrogant if he heard it. She said, "Nianian seems very smart. He learned so quickly." Gu Jingze said, "Don't worry. I told you so. He didn't inherit your level of intelligence. His ability to learn is very strong. Thus, he can't learn at the same slow pace that other children learn. His progress would be impeded instead." Lin Che pursed her lips and said defiantly, "Every profession has its specialties. Do you understand? Furthermore, girls have to be emotional. Boys are the ones who need to be rational. There's nothing wrong with me being more emotional." Gu Jingze had already gotten used to the way she gave herself excuses anytime and anywhere. Furthermore, even though she was emotional, she was not actually particularly stupid. She had not been a hindrance to him and merely needed more attention. And he liked looking after her. He liked the feeling of lavishing every care on her. Looking after her as if she was a child made him feel very accomplished instead. When they arrived at home, Gu Jingze ended up sleeping before even eating his cake. However, he had gotten what he wanted this birthday. He was definitely satisfied with this as opposed to any other present. That night, Mu Firen even said that they had not visited because Nianian had not organized a party this time, but Union had already handed her present to Nianian. Lin Che told her that they had not wanted to make it a huge affair this time so that no one else would know. Mu Firen said, "Of course. I was thinking that we shouldn't casually butt in since it's the first time your full family of 3 is spending his birthday together. I wanted to give your family some alone time. We'll still spend it together next year." Lin Che thought that it had actually felt very good in the past few years that they had spent their birthdays together. "Alright, Union's birthday is almost here. All of you can come over. Union likes noise and excitement. If you don't come, only the 2 of us will be spending her birthday together." "That's obvious, of course. We will definitely be there." Union's birthday this year would definitely be very exciting because they would not be the only ones spending her birthday together. Black Hawk would probably attend as well since it was the first birthday he could spend with his daughter. It occurred to Lin Che that they were also a family of 3, even though both Mu Firen and Union did not know this. On Mu Firen's end, she put down the phone, feeling her heart ache. It was not because she was jealous of others' happiness but because she was still struggling while everyone was already living so blissfully. She had lived her life like this and could not blame others for it. It was all because she had been too naive back then. But this made her even more certain about her decision. She absolutely had to get a divorce. Absolutely. Chapter 908. All actors are bad people. Mu Firen had already sent someone to inform Mo Ding about her decision to get a divorce. However, Mo Ding had yet to respond. She heard nothing from Mo Ding even on the next day. However, she received a call from the Mo family that told her, "Firen ah. You returned to the country but you didn't even think of coming home to visit." In reality, the Mo family had always criticized Mu Firen greatly. Because Mu Firen was a celebrity while they were merchants, they had once said in front of her that prostitutes were heartless and actors were immoral. However, Mo Ding had consoled her at the time, saying that it was enough that they loved each other and there was no need to care about what his family said. In retrospect, everything had been a joke. Mu Firen was very surprised to receive the call too. She did not know who had given the Mo family her number. Mu Firen said, "I was thinking that you may not welcome us even if I went over. Now, just as you wanted, I've already decided to divorce Mo Ding, so there would all the more be no need for me to visit too." We heard about the divorce from Mo Ding. The 2 of you can't make such a reckless decision. It's definitely better for all of us to discuss it together. Come over so that we can discuss it together and see how best for you to divorce. Wouldn't that be better? Mu Firen wondered if the Mo family was very glad after hearing that she wanted a divorce and wanted to hasten her into getting a divorce. As Mu Firen wanted to resolve this matter sooner, she agreed and said, "Sure. I hope everyone will be present this afternoon. I will go over and discuss the divorce with everyone." The Mo family agreed very happily. That afternoon, when Mu Firen arrived at the Mo residence, she felt that nothing seemed to have changed in this place. The first bucket of gold that Mo Ding had received in his life was sponsored by the Mo family. As the Mo family operated a private bank, had some savings, and was also considered to have a bit of a reputation locally, many people felt that she was living off a rich man. However, Mo Ding's family was very stingy toward him. In reality, Mo Ding had not given her much capital. On the contrary, the company had earned quite a lot of money through her. Ever since she became famous, she had not taken a break. She had filmed production after production, dramas, commercials, movies, various advertisements. She did not feel tired at the time and merely felt that the 2 of them were working hard together. They were working hard for their future and the money they earned was their joint savings. However, the Mo family continued thinking of her as a Luvi who was not a match for Mo Ding at all. Mu Firen sighed as she looked at the large courtyard in the Mo residence. Mu Firen adjusted her satchel before striding in resolutely. Mu Firen is here. Mo Ding's mother, grandmother, younger sister, and brother-in-law were all at home. Mo Ding's father was probably not here because he did not care about such things. Mo Ding's mother stood up first when she saw Mu Firen and smiled faintly. The person who had called her was Mo Ding's grandmother. She looked at Mu Firen cheerfully and seemed kindly. However, she was a very crafty person. Mu Firen knew how terrifying she was when angry. Mo Ding's grandmother said, I heard that you and Mo Ding are getting a divorce. To be honest, we have no objections. But after the divorce, regarding the division of assets, should we do the calculations properly? Mu Firen froze. It turned out that they were here to ask her to divide her assets. Mu Firen smiled grimly and looked at them. I don't think there are any assets for us to divide. Mo Ding's grandmother asked, how can that be? Don't tell me you have no money. You lived abroad for so many years. You definitely spent a lot on food and accommodation. Forget what you already spent. You must still have a lot of savings at your disposal. Mu Firen said, that's my money. You said so too. Those are the savings at my disposal. What do you mean, your money? Didn't our Mo Ding earn all that money for you? If he didn't support you, would you be able to earn so much money? Mo Ding's grandmother had a sullen expression on her face. Beside her, Mo Ding's mother joined in. Firen, you can't forget your roots. Have you forgotten how tough it was when you were not yet famous? If not for our Mo Ding, would you have what you have today? Mu Firen said, yes. Mo Ding made me famous. But was he the only one working hard? Do you think he made me famous with the little resources he had? You don't know this, but I know that I was the one who obtained a lot of the resources on my own. It has nothing to do with him. Hey, I don't care what you say. You married Mo Ding, so all those things are considered your matrimonial assets, right? Don't tell me that you want to take everything away after the divorce. Mo Ding's grandmother said. Mu Firen scoffed, we had a prenuptial agreement before our marriage. I can take my money away if I want to. Their expressions immediately changed when they heard this. A prenuptial agreement? None of them had expected her to actually be so scheming. Mo Ding's mother said, I knew it. You couldn't have been such a good person. You said that you married Ah Ding out of love, but in actual fact, you still had a scheme of your own. Mu Firen said, I don't care what you say either. In any case, you can forget about taking even a cent of money away from me. I'm definitely getting a divorce too. Mo Ding's mother huffed and slapped her hand on the table as if her words were going to be powerful. We also want you to get a divorce quickly, but we will definitely not let another woman take the Mo family's money for no reason. If you want a divorce, fine. In exchange, give Ah Ding half of your assets. We'll part without hard feelings. Impossible, Mu Firen immediately said. Mo Ding's grandmother said, in that case, you can delay the divorce. It won't really affect men. Anyway, no matter how old Ah Ding gets, he will still be desirable. I can't say the same for you. You're getting older and older. You'll be an old woman in the future. It will be impossible for you to sell yourself for a few more cents in the future. I'll see who ends up dragging who down. Mu Firen seemed to have been immune to her caustic words from a long time ago. She only felt wave after wave of disgust as she listened to her. If you don't agree, I'll commence a suit to get a divorce. Anyway, we've lived separately for many years and everyone knows that Mo Ding has a mistress. Ha, a mistress? Do you think you can win if you bring it to court? I can just tell the judge that you were unfaithful first. Don't think we don't know. That child of yours is a bastard and we don't know where you got her from. You didn't know where to put her, so you hastily married Ah Ding, wanting him to take the rap. Mu Firen's heart clenched again. She felt unbearably sad because they had called Union a bastard. Can you treat a child with more virtue? Mu Firen could not help but shout. You can do such a thing, but you won't allow others to talk about it. Mo Ding's grandmother said. Mo Ding's younger sister scoffed. Grandmother, you have no idea. Don't think that these so-called actors are so impressive. All of the money they earn is money from selling themselves. I reckon that this child belongs to some wealthy businessman with a family of his own and can't marry her. To tie him down, she didn't want to abort the child and instead married my brother and gave birth. If you don't believe it, Ah Sheng, isn't it true? All the actors are bad people. Yes, I've heard so much gossip. About some actress sleeping with the director to get a role, knocking on the door of the male lead in the middle of the night, and having an affair with multiple wealthy businessmen. Chapter 909, he really couldn't bear to let her leave for filming. Mu Firen looked at them. Just talk about the money if that's what you want. Don't throw dirty water on me. Waters are deep in the entertainment industry. There's a lot of gossip. The industry is a mess. You talk as if Mo Ding isn't a mess just because he's not an actor. Those with good character will have good character no matter where they go. Those with bad character will have bad character even if they become monks. Mo Ding's mother said, "Hey, you yourself even had a child with someone else. How shameless must you be to shout here? We were giving you face by asking you to come here to discuss the divorce. We thought that we had at least been related and that dirty laundry should not be aired in public. Otherwise, we'll make such a fuss that it ends up on the news. I'll see who becomes a disgrace then." Mu Firen sneered, "Forget about getting the money. You won't get even a cent. Sure, in that case, don't get a divorce. We'll see who tires out who first." Mu Firen had truly never seen such a shameless family. She immediately wanted to leave the Mo residence, but Mo Ding's sister had already stood up and was commanding her husband. "What are you looking at? Chase this evil woman out of the house." The man actually pushed Mu Firen out together with Mo Ding's sister. Mu Firen turned her head. "Let go of me, I can walk on my own." Mo Ding's sister huffed, "I just like pushing you. So what, you slut?" Mu Firen went down the stairs and looked at the people above. Sooner or later, she would make them retract the words they had said today. Sooner or later. On set, Lin Che received a call from Mu Firen in the afternoon. Mu Firen told her what had happened at the Mo residence. Lin Che asked furiously, "How could they be so shameless?" "I don't know, I've never met anyone like this either," Mu Firen said. Lin Che said, "It's because the people you met are inhuman. In reality, many people turn directly from lovers to enemies because of money. After all, profit is paramount in today's society." "Ha." Lin Che sighed and said to Mu Firen, "I'll deal with it when I go back. I'm about to attend the first filming session for the reality show. I will probably be done next week. Next week, I'll see just how capable the Mo family is. How can they stop you from getting a divorce?" "Little Che, I didn't complain to you because I wanted you to take action. You have already helped me a lot. Firen, you've helped me a lot too. We're friends and should help each other out in the first place. I can't possibly watch you and that jerk stay married. It's too disgusting." Mu Firen could not help but laugh when she heard this. Lin Che said, "Anyway, don't do anything first. Wait for me to come back and then we'll think of a way, alright?" On her end, Mu Firen had no choice but to agree. On this end, Lin Che had taken a few days off filming since she had to participate in the reality show. Nan Gongyu had directly given her time off. He looked at her when he was leaving. "Your husband seems quite wealthy. Why do you still have to participate in a reality show?" Lin Che said, "Reality shows are quite fun. Furthermore, it will air before our movie is released. If it gets famous, our movie may even benefit from its association with me." Tisk, tisk, tisk. When did my movies ever need to benefit from someone else? If so, it would really be time for me to retire. Lin Che stuck her tongue out at him before leaving. Gu Jingze was still a little worried when she left. He gave her repeated reminders and helped her pack her luggage. Then, he looked at her and said, "Just come back if you're too tired and can't withstand it." Lin Che said, "Alright. It's not that tough either." Gu Jingze put his arm around her waist and pecked her on the face. "But I still don't want you to go through too many hardships." Lin Che immediately felt her heart soften under his gaze. She stretched her arm out and placed it on his neck saying, "Don't worry. I will definitely look after myself properly." There was no way Gu Jingze would believe her. Even though he knew that Lin Che would live well without him in any case, he just could not help worrying. But she still had to leave no matter what. At the filming location, she drove in by car. The staff arrived once Lin Che got out of the car. Lin Che immediately saw that the camera lens was on her. She knew that filming had already started, so she instantly started creating the desired effect. She had an expression of complete confusion as they confiscated her luggage. Then, she asked disbelievingly, "Are you starting now? Can I take some clothes with me to change into?" Filming for the reality show began. Just as had been decided, they went on a trip together and were traveling poor. They got into a small minibus and were on their way. Each person was given some money and they would have to depend on themselves later. At the start, everyone was a little reserved. They introduced themselves one by one and talked about what skills they had so that they could earn some money while walking. They later left the car but did not expect to go their separate ways immediately. The oldest member said that he wanted to go beg for food and the teen idol said that he wanted to busk. Everyone split up to earn money first. Lin Che thought about it and decided to set up a small booth and be a fortune teller. Initially, passers-by did not even glance at Lin Che. When they subsequently realized that it was Lin Che, they immediately ran towards her. Lin Che said that she did not know how to do anything else. She only knew about the horoscope, so she could tell them about it. Everyone became extremely excited. Many people were willing to pay her, but she could not earn too much money in such a short time because of the concept of the program. Thus, Lin Che closed shop after earning a few $dozen. After they returned, they did not expect Lin Che to earn the most money. On the other hand, some of them did not earn even a cent. As a result, they started snatching money without caring about their image and fighting for food. They showed all sorts of embarrassing behaviors, but there was always something funny happening. In the beginning, the production crew had not deliberately planned for them to have different personalities. However, after interacting for a day, everyone had totally different dispositions. Their differences made them stand out even more from each other. And on this day, everyone became familiar with each other. When they looked for a place to stay for the night, they realized that they had basically spent all their money on food. In the end, they were left with no choice but to look for a shopping mall. They made their beds on the ground in the corridor and slept for a night. The production crew looked on in great satisfaction. They felt that they had really found the right guests. However, even though everyone had done many embarrassing things for the sake of comedic effect, they also talked amongst themselves in private. The veteran host said, "I heard that Let's Travel Together had pretty good viewer ratings the last time." The teen idol said, "I watched it too. The broadcast was not bad, but the viewer ratings did go down in comparison to last season's ratings." Of course, the ratings would go down, but it's still quite high. Ha, aren't we just asking for death by competing with them? On the contrary, Lin Che was very calm and said directly, "Forget it. We'll entrust ourselves to luck. Even if we can't be first, we can be second too." Everyone looked at Lin Che in disbelief. They watched her sit there wrapped up in random pieces of newspapers that she picked up from outside to warm herself up. She really looked. Hey, aren't you supposed to be a goddess? Why do I feel like our production crew hired a madwoman? Lin Che immediately kicked him. Yours truly is the only female, so I'm the goddess. There is accentuation where there is comparison. What do you know? Chapter 910. It's Little Union's birthday. Throughout the journey, all of them were on very good terms with each other. Although they often had to fight for items, food and sleeping space, everyone did it cheerfully. This was also very typical for the sake of comedic effect. They even set up a group chat and added each other's WeChat contact so that they could get in touch. After 2 days and nights, everyone made the trip back in complete fatigue. However, in reality, they still had a lot of fun on the journey. Despite their fatigue, they still had quite a good time. They returned to B City in no time. The moment Lin Che got off the plane, she saw people outside who seemed to be waiting for someone at the airport. She walked out through the VIP passageway and did not plan to walk outside. She had not told anyone her arrival details either, so she thought that they were probably not here to see her. When she took another look, she realized it was actually the production crew for Let's Travel Together that happened to touch down today as well. Yang Ling was with the production crew. When she walked out, she basked in the enthusiasm of the show's fans outside. Everyone was dressed in very eye-catching outfits as they waved to the people outside. Beside her, the producer of Traveling Poor said to Lin Che, they specially informed the media outlets and their fans about their arrival. They wanted to create hype by showing that they have a lot of fans. Lin Che raised her eyebrows. So they can do something like this? Sure, why didn't our program do the same? The producer said, it's because we haven't aired our first episode and we don't know how the viewer ratings will be, so we didn't dare to recklessly sensationalize it. This is to avoid us slapping ourselves in the face if the viewer ratings turn out to be very low. It wouldn't look good on us either. If the ratings for the first episode is in the 3-digit or 2-digit figures, then we will consider promoting it properly. Lin Che nodded in understanding. There were still certain ways to generate hype for reality shows. Naturally, she still did not know them. It was her first time participating in such a reality show and she did not yet know how it would turn out. However, in the outside world, the internet hype on "Let's Travel Together" was already spreading like wildfire. Everyone seemed extremely excited. At the same time, no one expected several netizens to release some information about Traveling Core. They said that they had seen the filming for Traveling Core. Among the photos uploaded, there was a very funny one. It was of Lin Che setting up a roadside booth to read palms and talk about horoscopes. There were 2 words written on a piece of white paper: fortune-telling. Thereafter, there were photos of her squatting by the roadside and waiting for customers to tell their fortunes. This photo really evoked a lot of curiosity in a short time. People immediately found it very amusing and looked forward to the show even more. They really wanted to see exactly what kind of show this was. How could it be this embarrassing? Following this, a few other pictures were also released. However, they definitely could not reveal what had exactly happened in the highlights of the show. If they did that, then the show would no longer be interesting. As a result, everyone could only wait for the first episode of the show to be aired on Friday. Only then would they get a definite answer. As for the production crew of Let's Travel Together, someone was very surprised after looking at the photo. Who wrote the script for their program? How can they come up with so many ideas? Why is our script getting worse and worse? The producer for the program was sullen as well. The ideas that we can use have already been used. Furthermore, their concept is Traveling Core but ours is going on a vacation. The premises are different. The director of the show scoffed. I don't care. Anyway, think of ideas. Think of fresh ideas. If you can't, then copy ideas from overseas programs. You must come up with novel ideas even if you have to copy. The director really felt a little threatened because the internet had actually started sensationalizing that program. However, producer hastily said, that's enough. In actual fact, they're not getting that much publicity. Didn't we already build good relations with the higher-ups? We also agreed that the funds given to them would be as little as possible so that they can't spend any money on publicity. We'll see what they can do. When the time comes, their viewer ratings definitely won't be as high as ours. Don't worry about it. Hearing this, the director thought it made sense too. Lin Che returned home just in time for Yunyan's birthday. Lin Che brought Nianian with her to Mu Firen's house. She told Nianian to get dressed. Then, she looked up at Gu Jingze. We'll come back very late tonight. Do you want to come along too? Gu Jingze said, birthdays and whatnot are very boring. You girls like spending birthdays together, so go ahead. I won't go. Spending his son's birthday with him was one thing. Celebrating someone else's birthday was another. Lin Che wriggled her nose at Gu Jingze. Thereafter, she took Nianian out with her. At home, Mu Firen had already prepared what was needed for the birthday party. Although Lin Che and Nianian were always the only attendees, the mother and daughter still prepared very diligently. After all, Yunyan's birthday only came around once a year. Each time, Mu Firen would make Yunyan's birthday party the best she could. The moment Lin Che and Nianian arrived, Yunyan quickly ran downstairs to open the door for them. Yunyan, happy birthday Tilda, Lin Che handed the large gift box to her upon entering the house. Yunyan said happily, thank you, auntie. Mu Firen walked towards them. What present did you buy? It's so big. Lin Che said, I bought a set of Barbie dolls. Good gracious, I've seen this brand. It's so expensive. Why did you buy it for her? Mu Firen asked. Lin Che said, it's nothing. All girls like dolls, unlike our Nianian. He only likes playing with computers and cars. Nianian looked up and did not try to speak. Mu Firen said, girls are like that. But you spent too much. Lin Che said, of course. Yunyan is my goddaughter. When it comes to my goddaughter, I don't feel bad no matter how much money I spend. Mu Firen smiled and looked at her. Sure. Anyway, I just saw that the pre-broadcast reaction to your reality show seemed quite good. I reckon you're going to earn a large sum of money again. As a poor person without any source of income, I won't stand on ceremony with you. Tisk, tisk, tisk. You've earned enough to retire. The birthday party was very heartwarming. The young Union had an innocent expression on her face as she ate the cake with Nianian and played with her toys. She was extremely happy. Lin Che leaned back and chatted with Mu Firen. Her heart ached immensely as she looked at Mu Firen, who had indeed become more haggard after returning to the country. They just want your money no matter what and don't want to just let you go. Did they tell you how much money they want? Lin Che started asking about her trip to the Mo residence. Mu Firen said, they said that they want half of my assets. Ha, they must be mad Firen, I'll go with you one day. I want to see how impressive they are to dare to ask you for so much money. Did they even have any shame? Even though I'm really exhausted and I want to get a divorce no matter how much money it takes, I feel uncomfortable letting them benefit from this. You're right, I find it disgusting just hearing about it. I can't let them get even a cent. Maybe they found out that I bought a house here and think that I'm quite rich, Mu Firen said. The location and size of her house were both very satisfactory. She had indeed spent a sizable sum of money. She wanted Union and herself to live a little more comfortably and wanted to give Union to live blissfully, so she did not care about the price as long as it was within acceptable limits. In B City, where any house would cost a few million, she spent more than 20 million on this small bungalow. It was indeed a little extravagant.